Yes, 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 yes. Did you hear the words of love speaking to you? Stop walking around here unprepared. Stop being scared. Stop doing all the crazy things you do. That ain't you. Did you know that when I made you, you were pure love? Did you know that when I made you, you were whole? Did you know that you were born of pure divinity, a true mystery to unfold? Thank you, Brother Kahari Lemuel, for channeling that powerful message from love. Well, we are in the third week of this series, Practical Spirituality, Principles for Living Your Greatest Life, and this is based on the 7 guiding principles of CSC. We started in week 1 with getting to know you, looking at the principle God is, and we reviewed for some and highlighted for others who and what God is, and we looked at Lessons in Truth from Dr. Emily H. Cady in that second lesson, which is so important. And then we also looked at, when we understand who and what God is, we also then understand what God does and how God operates. And from that place, then we can move into what Pastor Yolanda spoke to us about last week, command the good, recognizing that if we are one with God, once we understand that oneness, that God is and we are one with God, that then we have the power, capability, and possibility to command the good in our lives, to live from that place of seeking first the kingdom of God, or the realm of everlasting good, or the kingdom of the now. And all of these things, the good, the things that we desire, will absolutely be added unto us. So this week we move to principle 3, which I have already shared with you, is love is the more excellent way. And what you will read further is what we have on our website. Love is the highest choice we can make. We must learn to love God within us and ourselves unconditionally. We freely extend this love to our neighbor because our neighbor is ourself. As we choose love and embody it, we recognize that every action of our brothers and sisters is either an expression of love or a call for love. And so I'm going to speak to you this morning from the topic, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Now, when we hear that topic generally, I'm a lover, not a fighter, it actually is an expression of sometimes neutrality, right? Because there's some foolishness or drama going on. And we say, no, I'm a lover, I'm not a fighter. I don't get involved in that. That's not me, right? Many times that's what we're offering when we say that. But I want us to hear this phrase a little differently, because we as metaphysicians understand something about the power of prayer. And so when I hear the term, or the phrase rather, I'm a lover, not a fighter, I hear an affirmation and a denial. I hear, I am not a fighter, I am a lover. I am not a fighter, a denial. Denying of the unreality of this thing. That's not who I am, but then I affirm I am a lover. Now, we understand the principle of this, that nature abhors a vacuum. So as soon as you say I am not something, you clear the path, but then you have to put something in that clear path. So I am not a fighter, I am a lover. Another way you could say it is I am not a destroyer, I am a creator. Or finally, we could say I am not fear, I am love. And so when we talk from this topic today of I am not a lover, not a fighter, I invite you to think about it from this perspective, that we're denying something and then replacing it with an affirmation. So to say that I am a lover, not a fighter, we have to understand what love is all about. Now, we talk about love here a lot. We sing songs like we sang today. Love has spoken, and love is the more excellent way. We have our message series, which we did last year, Love is the Message. And Pastor Yolanda and I co-taught a series, Write Your Own Love Song. And we have other messages, Prepare the Table for Love, and I Want to Know What Love Is. You can go on YouTube and find out. We talk about love. But we have to understand that love is not an emotion or a feeling. Love is actually a frequency or a channel that we tune into. Love is right seeing, right thinking, right being. It's as if, and we understand this on the physical realm, that there are things that are present here in this room that none of us can see. But if we have the right instruments or the right type of glasses, we can see all kinds of light. There's other types of light that's being reflected here, or the wireless signals that are zooming all around our heads. They're here, but we can't see them because we don't have the right instruments to see them. And so love is really the same way. Always is, always here. But many times we don't know that it's here because we're not tuned into the frequency that it is. And so there's a couple texts that we're going to look at today. The first is one of my favorites, Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins. And David Hawkins writes about love in this way. He says, love as depicted in the mass media is not what this level is about. What the world generally refers to as love is an intense emotional condition combining physical attraction, possessiveness, control, addiction, eroticism, and novelty. It's usually fragile and fluctuating, waxing and waning with varying conditions. That love can turn into hate is a common perception, but hate stems from pride, not love. Now, Hawkins in Power versus Force, if you're not familiar with Power versus Force, he writes about these varying energy levels that we move through. And he writes about the energy level of love. It's quantified and calibrated at a number, which is 500. And the number 500 is significant because basically the negative vibrations or the negative energies are below 200. So once we get to 200, the level of courage, we're now moving in a positive direction. And so moving up this scale, as he describes it, 500 is the energy level of love. And love is then followed, 500 is followed by joy, peace, and enlightenment. And enlightenment, you're up at 700 to 1,000 and on. Now, the thing about this, I think it's confusing because it's a linear model, right? And it gives us this perception that there's some hierarchy between energy levels and there's some hierarchy between what's really going on. And in truth, there are no levels, right? Life is not linear or hierarchical. But the thing that's interesting about this, what I posit and submit to you is that once we are at this energy level, tuned into the frequency of love, and it indeed is a frequency, it indeed is a channel, just to think of it as I just read that hate stems from pride. Pride is at the level of 175. So pride is on channel 175. Love is on channel 500. So it's a different energy. But what I want you to understand is that once you reach this level of love, as he talks about the energy levels that follow joy, peace, and enlightenment, these are simply expressions of love. These are simply greater, wider, more endless expressions of love because we understand that in truth, there is no ending to anything. So once you've tapped into that frequency, you're just now going to express more of this frequency in new, greater, wider, and more profound ways. And because we as humans need to quantify and qualify it, we call it joy. We need to quantify and qualify it, so we call it peace. We want to qualify it and quantify it, so we call it enlightenment. We want to qualify it and quantify it, and we call it cosmic consciousness. We want to qualify it and quantify it, and we call it super consciousness. We give it all these names because we're just trying to understand what this expression of love is. But all you really need to know is that I'm operating at the energy level of love. And everything that flows from that is good and only good. Everything that flows from that is constructive. Everything that flows from that is healing. Everything that flows from that is light. So similarly, as I just read from the website, love is the highest choice we can make, which is something that Pastor Yolanda and I wrote. That can equally be misleading. Because in truth, love is all there is. So when you talk about this idea of love being the highest choice we can make, again, in this time-space reality, on this plane of existence, in this realm of duality, of this and that, of up and down, of left and right, we have the appearance that we're choosing something called love. But in truth, there's only one channel. Lord have mercy. And so when we as metaphysicians affirm I'm a lover, not a fighter, we are denying not just the power of being a fighter, but we are denying the reality of fighting. We're not just denying the power of fighting, but we're denying all the perceived benefits that come from fighting and that way of being. Now, there's another text that I want to introduce to you, and I think I've maybe have mentioned this text once or twice, but it's very important in the context of this particular message. A Course of Love. Now, we've heard of A Course in Miracles. Well, there is another text, A Course of Love. And this is equally a channel text. It would be considered the sequel to A Course in Miracles, but that's not even a good word to use. Now, why do I say that? Because what we understand about A Course in Miracles is that we all hold a thought system that is either benefiting us or not benefiting us, right? And it's the thought system of love or it's the thought system of fear. And what A Course in Miracles invites us to do and allows us to do is to learn how to change that thought system. And so as we read the text and as we work with the lessons, we are undoing that old thought system and replacing it with a truth system, right? So what's interesting is if we move through that process and are living from that place, we've now healed our minds, which means now we can hear our heart. And so what A Course of Love is now taking us in the next step is saying, okay, you've created this new thought system now. You've healed your mind. Now you can listen to your heart and let your heart tell your mind what it should be thinking and how you should be moving through the world. So A Course of Love talks about in the second chapter what love is. And I just want to share a little bit of this. What love is cannot be taught. It cannot be learned, but it can be recognized. Can you pass love by and not know that it is there? Oh, yes, you do it constantly by choosing to see illusion rather than the truth. The body's eyes are not the eyes with which love can be recognized. Christ's vision is. For only Christ's vision beholds the face of God. While you look for a God with a physical form, you will not recognize God. Everything real is of God. Nothing unreal exists. Each person passing from this life to the next learns no great secret. They simply realize love is all there is. Nothing unreal exists. Think for yourself. If you were going to die tomorrow, what would you do? What would you today find meaningful? Only love. This is salvation's key. So I want to highlight something that I just read. The body's eyes are not the eyes with which love can be recognized. Christ's vision is. This is so important. And this is where principle 1, 2, and 3 come together. Principle 1 is God is. Principle 2 is I am one with God. And principle 3 is love is the more excellent way. So first, knowing that God is, and then knowing what God is, knowing who God is, and knowing how God operates, and then knowing that you are one with God, this is Christ's vision. And it is only from that place of knowing who and what God is, one, that it exists. Then knowing who and what it is, and then knowing how it operates. I talked about in week 1 how this thing then, we looked at the Psalms, right? Making me to lie down, right? Stretching out. It forces us to live in comfort and prosperity. This is how this thing operates. But in order to really operate from that power, as Pastor Yolanda talked about, we cannot command the good unless we know we are one with God. This is why Jesus, our elder brother, was always speaking from that place of understanding. I and my Father are one. It is not I that does the work, but the Father within me. Recognizing this powerful, that is Christ's vision. And to the extent that you are operating from this place of knowing that God is, what God is, who God is, how God operates, and that you are one with it, you are operating as the Christ. And so because love is all there is, we could even shift the principles and say, love is, we are one with love. And then love is the more excellent way, because we know the teaching and we know the truth that God is love. And so use that word if it feels better for you. And for many of us, that's actually a more healing way to speak about this thing that we were given a false idea about, that is shaming us and guilting us and testing us in these ways. So if we understand, come to this recognition of what love is, and recognizing that love can be recognized because of its effects, then we should actually use the word love all the time as we're thinking about and speaking about and talking about God. Now, in Power versus Force, Hawkins goes a little deeper to talk about love. Some of the attributes of love, the affirmative attributes of love. He says love is unconditional, unchanging, and permanent. It doesn't fluctuate. Its source isn't dependent on external factors. Loving is a state of being. It's a forgiving, nurturing, and supportive way of relating to the world. Now, as I just said, if I talk about love, I'm talking about God. God is unconditional, unchanging, and permanent. God does not fluctuate. Its source isn't dependent on external factors. God is a state of being. Truth. We talked about that in week 1. God is a state of being. God is not a person or a personality. It's substance. It is beingness. And then we go on. It is forgiving, although in truth, God doesn't forgive because God doesn't condemn. It is nurturing and supportive, and a supportive way of relating to the world. Now, this is important. I love this line. Its source isn't dependent on external factors. Use this in your prayer time. Now, if you think about this, right? Because you're experiencing an external factor. You're experiencing an eviction notice. You're experiencing not enough money. You're experiencing a breakup. You're experiencing a layoff. You're experiencing some dis-ease. You're experiencing some conflict with another. Well, but you recognize that the source within you, this thing that you are one with, it is not dependent on external factors. That means that outside information that you're dealing with, God ain't dealing with it. It doesn't even see it. It is operating from a level of knowing that all is well. It is operating from a level of knowing that this too shall pass. It is operating from a level of knowing that this thing can and will change. It is not dependent on external factors. But so often we limit God to external factors. And then we wonder why the prayer ain't answered. If we limit God to external factors, it says yes and amen. Oh, okay, that's your obstacle? Okay. Okay, I agree with you. But when you affirm, first deny the condition and recognize that the God in me is not moved or deterred or dependent on external factors, then you can say, mountain, get out of my way. And Source says, and so it is, and moves it away. Now, one of the things I was thinking about when we look at the energy levels of love and the energy level of pride, and as we are in the time where we're celebrating Dr. King, I'm often, as I look back on his life and look at the trajectory of his thought and thinking and teaching, and the ways in which the Black Power movement didn't really embrace him. We'll just say it that way, right? And I talked a little bit about this in, if you want to go back to an older message, Bless You Fear, which was inspired by the Disney movie Frozen. And actually, in that message, I teach on all of these levels. I take you through all of the energy levels so you can understand it on a deeper level. So I encourage you to look at that. But I specifically talked about the level of pride, which is an interesting, powerful, and necessary level. Because pride, as I said, is 175. It's not at the level of 200, which is the level of courage, where we're moving into the positive aspects. But pride is way above apathy and shame and guilt. It's above anger. And when I look at the history of African Americans in this country, and really we could look at any movement and find the same thing, the level of pride is very necessary and interesting. Because if you're a people that were told that just by the virtue of your birth, you don't matter, that what you look like is not a good thing, right? When you understand that, then it's important that you move to a level of saying, I'm black and I'm proud. I'm beautiful, right? There's important that you come to that level as we understand the consciousness that is shifted in the African-American community, where we begin to embrace our African roots, and you begin to see brothers and sisters rocking dashikis, and if you're like me, even as that trajectory happened again through hip-hop in the 90s, and we were rocking our medallions, and we had the red, black, and green, right? You understand, right? That consciousness was important, right? But the problem is if we stay there, because, again, it's just a place that's getting us somewhere else, getting us to love. If we stay there, then it turns into tribalism, factionalism, and separatism, because the ultimate truth, race is the ultimate lie. Hello, somebody. It ain't real. It literally is not real. So if we get caught up in the pride of race, we're now living in falsehood. We're now living in a trick, if you will. So it's important that we move out of that place. And so what I began to understand when I look at Dr. King, and when I look at the Gandhian philosophy that he was embodying, and when I look at how he even embraced Buddhist philosophy, he was operating at this level of love. Hence, that's why he couldn't be understood by so many people. Right, the level of pride and the energy of pride, it was useful and necessary, and it's useful and necessary for all of us. Individually, we got to move to that place. But then we recognize that ultimately we need to move to this level of love. And so where his consciousness was, it could not be understood. But what's so beautiful is, just like all of our elder brothers and our teachers are, they're standing in the place of love saying, come to where I am, because here's where it is. This is why he could stand so beautifully at the night before his death and say, I have been to the mountaintop. See, he was speaking from that level of love. He was speaking from that energy of love. He understood pride. He'd been there. He moved up there. He understood courage. He had been there. He moved up. He understood reason. He had been there. He moved up. But he recognized at this level of love, there's something else going on. I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land. And I know that we as a people, we as black people, we as white people, all people on this planet, we will get to that promised land. And so from that mountaintop, from that energy level, he was speaking to us and still speaking to us, calling us to this place of recognizing our oneness and recognizing that the beloved community, which is what he taught on, was all about all of us coming together. That only happens at the level of love, and that only happens at the level where we remove separation and stop believing the lie of race. Now, in A Course in Miracles, I was thinking about this as I was preparing. I was thinking about this lesson 75, the light has come. Because as I think about light, It's another way to think about love because light does so many wonderful things, right? If you've ever been in a dark room, right, and light shows up, it's amazing. I was FaceTiming with my sister last night, and the power went out while we were talking, right? Everything was pitch black. And just that recognition of realizing she couldn't see anything. My niece was scared, and they were like fumbling around looking for a flashlight. But once the light came on or using the phone light, like all of a sudden it changes the experience. It changes everything that's going on. And so when we recognize here as we're affirming I'm a lover, not a fighter, this is living in the light and as the light. All else is living in darkness. This is important. Now, when I say darkness, I'm not talking about evil. I'm talking about just the absence of light, the inability to see clearly and fully. So what love does, as love is light, love is the thing that then allows us to see clearly and fully. Love, operating and moving to the energy level of love, is the equivalent of being in a dark room and all of the lights come on. And all of a sudden you can see what you were looking for. All of a sudden you can get to where you need to get to. And anything other than that is living in darkness. And that's something we have to just recognize. This is why that idea of every expression, every act is either an expression of love or a call for love. It's either love or fear. It's one or the other. Either the light is on or the light is off. There's no in between. And what's interesting for many of us, and this is something that I've been sitting with, that in between, in this sense of thinking we got one foot in love and one foot in fear, is actually giving reality to fear. And so if we're saying that fear is ultimately the illusion, and if we're saying that love is all there is, then we recognize that if we have our foot in fear, if we have our foot in a little bit of darkness, right? Again, not evil. I got to keep saying that. Not evil, just the absence of light, our inability to see, then we're making that thing real. But the truth is that it's not real. Nothing exists except this love, this thing that we call God. And so in that lesson, there's an affirmation. The light has come. I have forgiven the world. Why is that important? Now Hawkins already said to us, he said that loving is a state of being. It's a forgiving, nurturing, and supportive way of relating to the world. God doesn't forgive because God doesn't condemn, but we have this beautiful tool of forgiveness which allows us to turn on the light. See, what's so interesting, I'm almost done actually, but what's so interesting as we look at what's going on in our planet and what's going on in our world, right? There's a desire for justice, and there's a desire to see certain perpetrators across many spectrums of life to get what they deserve. There's no light in that, y'all. Because here's the thing, A Course in Miracles is very clear about this, is that if you are a jailer, you in jail with the prisoner. It's really clear. And so the light can only come when you have forgiven the world. Why can you forgive the world? Because you recognize that any expression of fear is not real, and the moment that you bring forgiveness to it, the moments that you bring, and hear this, I'm hearing Pastor Yolanda because she was sharing this in class the other week. There's a process to this, right? We're not saying, oh, just forgive, let go, woo-woo, like, no, right? We teach a very specific process around forgiveness. We have worksheets. Yes, shout out for the worksheets, right? Radical forgiveness worksheets, right? Self-forgiveness and radical forgiveness. You can also use the work. Byron Katie's The Work. So we recognize that it's a process. Please hear me. I'm not saying you're just supposed to forgive. I'll just say it. R. Kelly. I'm not saying that. Right here and right now. I know we ain't there. We ain't there. Okay? I'm not saying you got to forgive Donald Trump. I know we ain't there. But what I do recognize is that in order for the light to come, because, see, here's the thing. All of these people, what's going to happen to them will happen to them, right? R. Kelly, the downfall is already happening. We see it, right? Donald Trump, the walls are caving in. Lord have mercy. We see it. But the problem is, if we don't move into this place of forgiveness, and I'm talking collectively as a country, our consciousness, because it's our consciousness that put him in office. If we do not do that, then we're just going to still be in darkness with somebody else in the White House. Because in truth, let's just think about this for a second. The darkness was present when Obama was in the White House. It wasn't Obama, but all of the darkness of race and prejudice and separatism was there, which is the only reason that Donald Trump could ever end up in office. We haven't healed. We haven't forgiven the world. That's the only thing that's going on. So Donald Trump, again, what will happen to him will happen to him, but we recognize that we want light. Yes, yes, we want to be able to see. I'm tired of bumping around against everybody and everything in this dark world, in this dark nation. I'm ready for the light to come. So I affirm the light has come. I have forgiven the world. But that is only from the level and the energy of love. And so, two last things. One of the other attributes of love is patience. We sang it today, love is patient, love. It's the very first line from that beautiful text in 1 Corinthians, love is patient. We find that same verse again in the Essene Gospel of Peace. There's a few little tweaks, some of which I love, but in the Essene Gospel of Peace, again, it starts with, love is patient. And when I think about that, it's very interesting, even again, as we think about these times, and it feels like Trump has been in office for 4 years already, and he hasn't. And it's because we've become impatient, right? But love is patient. And there's something in the Course in Miracles, actually in the manual for teachers. There's a chapter asking what are the characteristics of a teacher. And it goes through a list of characteristics. And one of those things is patience. Now, the reason why I love this is because, in truth, we could be asking what are the characteristics of love in the same way. But there's in that passage, it says something so profound. It says, those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait without anxiety. This is an attribute of love. Love can afford to wait. That man in the White House ain't moving me out of my energy of love. I'm good because I'm sure of the outcome. Love prevails. I'm sure of the outcome. Love wins. I'm sure of the outcome. Love is louder. I'm sure of the outcome. Love is the only power. I'm sure of the outcome. And that's why I can be patient. And so then it reminded me of a song by our dear Ricky Byers, a song that I love, and it just kept playing in my mind. God is all there is. And I kept hearing God is all there is, love is all there is. But in the second verse, I love what she writes because she's setting up this thing where basically she didn't understand that God is all there is, and she didn't know that love is all there is, but a teacher came into her life that offered her this idea, and it transformed everything because she says, she starts in the beginning, my wings were heavy. I could not fly. Like life was bad, essentially is what she's saying. I was haunted by dreams that were meant to come true. And so, of course, she didn't think that love or God was there. But then this beautiful idea was introduced to her, and then she says, in the sky of my mind was lightning and thunder. I never could trust it could finally be right. But the truth in your eyes say, don't worry, don't wonder. You sang me a song that has shattered the lie. God is all there is. God is all there will ever be. God is all there is. God is all there will ever be. This is the only power. There's no power in war. This is the only power. There's no power in fighting. This is the only power. There's no power in anger. There's no power in hate, fear, and separation. I deny its power right here and right now, and I affirm that I'm a lover, not a fighter, because love is all there is. On that, I invite everybody to stand. Everybody to stand. And so we take a deep breath in, and we breathe out. We breathe in love, and we breathe out love. For we recognize that our breath is permeated with love. We breathe in love, and we breathe out love. We recognize this room is permeated with love. We breathe in love, we breathe out love. Right here and now, Mother, Father, God, I recognize that you are all there is, and you are all there will ever be. Right here and now, I recognize that you are love, and love is all there is, and love is all there will ever be. Right here, I recognize that as you are love, I recognize and acknowledge the qualities of love, that love is patient, and love is kind, that love is forgiving, and love is nurturing, and love is a state of being, and love is that thing that wraps us and holds us and takes care of us. I recognize here and now that love is perfect. Love is whole. Right here and now, I recognize that love is here. And as I recognize that love is here, I recognize that I am one with love. I recognize that I live, move, and have my being in love. I recognize that love lives, moves, and has its being in, through, and as me. Right here and now, I recognize my oneness with you. And as I am recognizing my oneness with you, I recognize the oneness of my sister and my brother that are assembled here, and my sister and my brother that are watching us across the nation and across the globe. My sister and my brother, wherever you may be and within the sound of my voice, you are one with love itself. You are one with this excellent love. You are one with this perfect love. You are one with this all-pervasive love. You are one with this powerful love. You are one with this all-knowing love. You are one with this genius love. You are one with this healing love. You are one with this love that is light. You are one with this light, this love that is your wholeness. And as we stand in this profound awareness of love, and that love is, and that we are one with love, we now allow ourselves to be carried up to this energy. We tune and align ourselves back to this channel, back to this frequency. For we recognize that this frequency is the frequency of light. We recognize that as this is the frequency of light, this is the frequency that allows us to be, do, or have whatever it is that we desire. We recognize that this is the frequency that allows us to say, the light has come, I have forgiven the world. We recognize that this is the frequency that allows us to see the presence of love in the White House. This is the frequency that allows us to see the presence of love all across this planet. We realize and recognize that this is the thing that allows us to see the frequency and the light of love that is always present. And as we allow the frequency and the light of love to permeate our being and to be seen not with our body's eyes, but with Christ's vision, we can speak and affirm this word that I have overcome the world. 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 There is no thing that can stop us. There is no thing that can block us. There is no other power. There is only love. And so we live in this awareness that there is one mind, one power, one presence, and it is love, operating in, through, and as all things. We now allow that love to work the miracle. For we realize that the miracle is the shift in our perception. And now that our perception has shifted, we can now see through new eyes. We can now see what love is doing and how love is operating. We can now patiently allow love to bring forth the inevitable outcome of unity, the inevitable outcome of grace, the inevitable outcome of ease, the inevitable outcome of freedom. So with joy and thanksgiving, I now release this word back into the law, back into cause, which is always in operation and responding to me. I let this word permeate the mind of God, that it may bring forth the good that we seek easily and effortlessly. So with joy and thanksgiving, we lift up our voices and we say, amen, ashe. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you, God.